take a look at a more focused portion of the outdoors. Mike had talked a bit about outdoor design and playscapes, but we're just going to dive a little bit deeper into how crucial it is for a child's development to have allotted time for being outside. In every culture, childhood's a special time. It's probably the most powerful period of our lives. Experiences from the core of our being, our sense of ourselves in relation to the world of nature, of people, of things. It's a time for powerful experiences that forever fuel that astronaut, the scientist, the artist, and just the imagination within us. Um, the outdoors provides a means for children to learn through unstructured activities, giving them the freedom to dictate how they spend their time and what activities they would like to do. It offers possibilities for intellectual, emotional, social, spiritual, and physical development. It develops capacities for creativity and problem solving. It helps to reduce stress and symptoms of attention deficit disorder. And it supports a child's sense of self and recognizing independence, interdependence, and connectedness with their natural world. And the image here is of the Chestnut Hill School, and they were actually wanted to eliminate that tree. So thankfully they didn't. All right, I have control now. One second. Cool. So when thinking about a play space for children, those aspects from the previous slide should be considered, and it can help to create goals towards designing an effective outdoor space. Allowing time and space for free play, just giving children time to be outside isn't really enough. They should have a space that encourages them to explore different kinds of play and develop different skills. And this isn't just for centers and providers, but for anyone really, just like taking a child to a park or a field on the weekend or after school. Um, Providing a variety of natural and built environments is really important. Offering risk challenges to push a child out of their comfort zone to help build self-confidence. Encouraging cooperative play, whether through dramatic play or an activity that can have multiple children engaged. This helps to build on social skills and the sense of discovery of giving children the tools to engage in their surroundings and to help nurture an appreciation for nature and the outdoors. Providing time and space for free play. So here are just some examples of playgrounds that provide enough elements to spark curiosity in the children without really giving them guidance on how the playground should be used. And these are very open and provide at least a climber if possible to help with upper body and gross motor development. Some spaces like in the bottom left, the space was limited, and so it didn't allow us to put a climber there. But you can see on the image to the right that just doing a design with the surfacing could be an effective method to engage children without having to minimize the available open space. And these spaces just really provide children with the opportunity and freedom of unstructured play, which is just very important for their developing imagination and creativity. Free play. So here are just some more examples of how open, unoccupied space can be taken advantage of with just loose parts or building blocks or just toys. Providing children with an opportunity for cooperative and dramatic play. It's important because it lets children play out their fantasies in scenarios that they don't fully comprehend yet, and helping to develop their communication and language skills to unite and work together as a team towards a common goal. Now we have providing a variety of environments. So a well-designed playground should just provide multiple areas for different activities for the children. Some areas should allow children to develop their upper body strength and gross motor skills, like larger pieces of equipment that you would typically see in a playground. Other areas should just allow children to engage in dramatic and role playing, strengthen the child's creativity and some social skills. And this can be accomplished through musical instruments and just providing a backdrop or a stage that children can use and kind of gets their imagination going. And just reiterating on what was shown in the previous slides, it's important to provide open space to provide or to run around and use loose materials and equipment to engage the children in these creative and cooperative activities. The image to the top right isn't actually a project that we worked on, but I thought it would be good to show because it was built to be completely inclusive and it succeeds in providing a variety of play. All the different areas of the playground can be accessed through this winding red path along the perimeter. And the path slopes up and down to be able to access the lower courtyard and the higher embankment slide. So now we're going to talk about one of the texts that Mike had touched on earlier. It's this The Inward Garden and The Magic Land, these were both written by landscape architect Julie Meimer Survey. And she talks essentially about this framework in her books. And she's mostly applying this framework to gardens, but it's an idea that can be applied to play spaces and really any sort of built environment as well. And she categorizes these different aspects of a garden into the 7 spatial archetypes. And these are just forms that we all love and are inherently comfortable with. They're fundamental forms that we can find in all of nature and all built form. And sometimes these archetypes can also be achieved through activities as well. So it's not just only built form. And now we'll run through each one. Let's see. So the first archetype that Julia refers to is a form in which you immerse yourself in. It arouses your senses. It's surrounding yourself in an atmosphere or engaging in an activity. So in these images, you can see children playing with water, trying to create a dam or trying to redistribute the path for the flow of the water. On the right, you can see children going on a walk or a hike through a forest. They're just surrounding themselves in the activity that they're engaged in. And just diving a little bit further, here's some just more examples of spaces that allow you to immerse yourself in the space around you. So the image on the left is the Toronto Music Garden. It's actually designed by the author Julie Meservey, and she worked in collaboration with famous cellist Yo-Yo Ma. The images support that this idea of surrounding yourself with music and flowers. And on the right, you can see that the children are engaged in playing with instruments and just creating music. The cave. So the next archetype is this idea of the cave is to provide a space or an element to help you find your focus. An area that provides privacy or seclusion. It's finding shelter in a form-fitting place. She puts it as somewhere with a window to the world. So it could be anything like a woodland hut or a playhouse. It could be a tunnel that children could crawl through or hang out inside. And this idea can even be applied to something like a front porch where you're just encapsulated all around, but you're still open to your surroundings. And these are spaces that give you a sense of isolation without shutting you out from the rest of the world. And this can kind of go back to trauma-informed design especially for children that are on the autism spectrum. We obviously want to promote socialization, but we also want to give children spaces, just their own personal space for when they feel they need to retreat a bit. Safe harbor is a space that gives you a feeling of embracing someone and being embraced. It's something that makes you feel safe and relaxed. It offers sanctuary and quiet refuge. These are spaces where you erect boundaries to define your realm of refuge. It could be a bench surrounded by plants. It can be a winged chair. It could even be something like a booth at a restaurant or at a bar. And the image on the top left is of the Boston University childcare center that we looked at earlier. This idea of a safe harbor can be applied to both on the deck above with the railing surrounding it or to the space below it, which is a little more private, even though it's open on the sides. The promontory. It's an elevated area that just essentially functions as a lookout. And it's this idea of exploring the edge, of standing at the brink and feeling the excitement and danger of just going beyond your comfort zone. So it could be something like the top of a hill or a tall climbing structure. It can even be loosely applied to something like the idea of a second floor deck or a balcony. And this archetype goes back to helping to develop a child's self-confidence. And the image to the right is of the Franklin Park Zoo. The island is this idea about creating smaller formations that provide you with a sense of ownership. It gives you the sense of becoming the center of that space and having control over it. It allows you to know yourself by finding time and space for yourself, building on this sense of ownership. As you can see in the images, when a child's occupying one of these island formations, it's kind of difficult for another child to be able to access it until they moved on. It also provides this experience of crossing a bridge or transitioning from one space to another. The mountain is this idea of providing elevated areas to gain perspective It gives this feeling of being protected yet free by occupying a high place. It's about enjoying the journey upward while being able to look back at your progress and gaining a new view to the world. It opens you to see things you might not have or couldn't have seen from below. So some of these can be forms like a rocky hill. It could be like these embankment slides that you see in the images. It could be a tall tree or a tree house. It's really the physical action of actually climbing and getting to the top. It's this feeling of accomplishment. And you can see that in the bottom right image where most of the children in the image are near the top of the hill. The last spatial archetype is this idea that the sky is about finding your bliss. It's bringing the sky to earth and leaving the landscape far below. So things like when you're looking up at the sky or at a tree, it gives you this sense of wonder and grandness. Being able to provide a space to lay on the grass or on a hammock and just be able to stare up at the sky. Could even be something like a mirror like you see in the middle image, or just a reflecting pool, just to provide a new perspective. It's about providing opportunity to be able to pause and absorb the scenery around you and letting you connect with nature. Risk-taking challenges. So now diverging from the archetypes, there are some aspects of the playground that should be taken into consideration when choosing equipment and layout. So one goal that was touched on earlier is providing risk challenges. Your goal should be when designing a playground to provide the highest amount of risk with the lowest amount of hazards that can lead to injury. And this helps to strengthen the child's confidence. It develops upper body strength and gross motor skills, and it encourages communication and socialization, as you can see in some of these images. And just continuing, looking at some more examples. Here you can see images of a larger climbing equipment that gives the children the freedom to approach it really however they see fit. It allows them to work together and to take turns so that everyone can really participate and have fun as a team, really. And actually in the back slide, the back on the left image is this custom slide that we designed, which is actually this 10-foot wide slide at the Fairweather School. Building on social skills. So now we're going to look at this idea of cooperation and looking at how the outdoors can help children with developing social skills in an unstructured environment. So to the left, you can see loose parts and building blocks that allow the children to work together towards a common goal. And another form is just really competitive and team-based games are a great way to get children engaged. It's a more structured activity, but it might be something that they already enjoy and are familiar with. And the top right, you can see another image of that slide I talked about previously. And just some more instances of building social skills. So here are just some more examples of how children can communicate with each other just to participate in the same activities. If you provide enough of a setting, then really the child's imagination can take over for dramatic play and role playing. Not sure why it's not going to the next slide. Okay. Place to discover. So gardens and play spaces should spark curiosity in children to be able to push them and to try and discover new things or explore new areas, which is why it's so important to provide a variety of environments. As you know, every child's different. They'll have different activities that may interest them more than another child, and you just have to be prepared for that sort of program. And continuing on that, these areas should encourage them to leave their comfort zone. It should allow them to surround themselves and be able to engage in an activity. And this can really kind of be connected back to this idea that Julie promoted with 7 archetypes, whether through built form or just through activities. Now, just discovering nature. In terms of really discovering nature, it's important to give children an opportunity to be able to connect back with the outdoors. These moments are really the one time during their day when they have a chance to be outside and surround themselves in a natural environment. So a playground shouldn't really just be about having a piece of equipment to climb on, and that's just surrounded by poured rubber or safety surfacing. Things like a plant palette, plants and trees, they really have a large impact on the atmosphere of the space and can provide a lot of unintended activities for the children that you hadn't really thought of when designing it. So looking at different types of trees with different shaped leaves, and that could be a learning experience for the children as well. Um, Providing plants that have dried seed pods or flexible sticks. These can be used by the children for art and loose play. And these are just things that a child might discover throughout their time on the play yard, whether that was your intention or not. And just to conclude this portion of the session,